Welcome to this week's edition of Oregon Minute. Each week, OCA Media features a guest or community leader who shares information on topics important to you, our listeners and viewers. New weekly episodes are broadcast on our cable channels as well as on demand through our YouTube channel. Visit ocamedia.com for more information. I'm Tom Kirchdoerfer with OCA Media. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Martin Shanks, Oregon's village administrator. Martin, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Martin, you've been the village administrator here in Oregon for around 6 months. What are your impressions of the village and the job? Are you settling in? Are things working out?
Yeah, I think I'm settling in all right. In this type of profession, the communities all kind of do the same sorts of things, and so it's just a matter of understanding each individual community's kind of uniqueness and how they kind of do these things differently. And so I've kind of settled into that and kind of understand where things are at and the lay of the land. And certainly we have a great village staff and great department heads who have made, the onboarding process a lot easier and a lot more tolerable. The village is extremely busy. There's a lot of things going on, but we're moving forward.
So anything about Oregon surprised you when you first got here?
Yeah, I think the thing that is surprising me the most is there's a great deal of community engagement and people who are very genuinely interested in what's happening here at the village. A lot of times in a lot of communities I've worked in previously, it's, you have a village board meeting or a city council meeting, and it's the elected officials and the village staff, and the whole room is empty otherwise. But that's not the case in Oregon. There's a great deal of people who are interested in what's going on, and they have thoughts and opinions and passions that they want to share. And I think that's awesome. I think it creates a better product from the government side of things.
So when you tell people that you're working in Oregon, what do you say?
Well, I think the thing that I always talk about is just the amount of growth that's going on in the community, and how that just is impacting literally everything that we do, and how we manage everything that we do. And so, I usually talk about a lot of the interesting projects that we're working on, whether it's, the village's projects from the library and the senior center and village hall, and certainly our JC Park would be another one. But then also some of our private development with our housing subdivisions and our multifamily developments that we have going on. And of course, we have some commercial development with Culver's, of course, going in. So there's plenty of things to talk about.
We could probably spend several hours just on Culver's.
Yeah.
So a lot of the recent meetings of the village board, I've noticed, and I am one of those people who does dial in and watches you
Right.
live.
Yep.
You've had a lot of discussions lately about the 2022 budget. Can you talk about that process, how it's going? Are there challenges in writing your first budget in Oregon?
I don't think so. Nothing unusual. As I said before, there is a structure to how local government kind of functions and works, and it's pretty applicable to every community, but every community does things just a little bit differently. And I think with the budget process, I'd certainly been through this process several times before, not on the scale of what Oregon has going on in terms of, the size and scope of what we do. But I think the process went pretty good. We tried to kind of keep the same process as my predecessor this year, is to kind of keep things stable. But overall, things went very, very well from a process standpoint, I think. And I think, the challenges that we have as far as the budgeting goes is we have these very large, once in a generation village building projects that are going on with the library, the senior center, and village hall. And what's happening is it's driving up our debt service, and so that's obviously having an impact on our property tax rate. But beyond that, things are fairly stable, and we're just trying to keep up with growth and do what we can.
You mentioned the village hall and relocating that. Can you talk about it? And this is out on County CC Jefferson, out on Jefferson,
Yep.
For our bank building there. Can you talk about what our process and our timeline is in the move? I know it's in process.
Yep. So the village does own the building. The bank is out of the building now. There are a couple tenants that are still in the building, and they will remain in the building for the foreseeable future. But right now, the village has contracted with an engineering firm, Sketchworks. They are going to be doing developing construction plans and design plans for remodeling the space for us. So basically turning a bank space into a village hall space. And so that means creating kind of a secure entrance, safety, a safe environment for our staff. And then actually the upstairs where the village boardroom will be isn't even finished. It's an unfinished space. So we need to finish that room off. And then there's also kind of a community room that we want to make some upgrades to as well. So we're working on those plans right now. We hope to have those done towards the end of this year, have the project out for bid over the winter, and then start construction, January, February. Hopefully that'll go pretty quickly, and we hope to start moving over there in the springtime.
So we could look to see you moving sometime in the spring. Will that affect the elections? Will we be changing our voting places?
No, and that's a good question. So the village clerk, Candy Jones, she anticipates still using this current village hall as the space for elections next year, and that would be throughout the calendar year. So.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on the old hall? What's going to happen to that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And beyond using it for elections next year, I think it's a discussion to be had. So obviously we have the library project, senior center project, as I mentioned. The nature of those two projects are still kind of floating up in the air, and how those are all going to pan out. And so having this building, at least while we're still trying to figure that out, kind of gives us some flexibility as far as maybe the library needs some temporary space, or the senior center needs some temporary space while we're finishing these projects. So we have that available to us, and I would assume that the village would want to keep that flexibility for the next couple of years at least. But beyond that, once we know where those projects are going and where those services are going, both on a temporary and permanent basis, I think it's a discussion to be had as far as what the future of this building is, and whether it's a public purpose. I've heard a million ideas, from parking or some other public purpose or housing or something of that nature. I think that's a good community discussion to still be had.
So they should send all their suggestions to you?
Absolutely. Yep. Village board is good too.
So besides the new culvers, what should the Argon residents be excited about in 2022?
Yeah, I think we got a couple good things going on, both public projects, private projects. On the public side, we got plans to do the big JC Park improvement project. So that's been out there for a while. That's a pretty massive project, actually. Several baseball fields and other multi-purpose fields and playgrounds and all that sort of thing will be happening with that project. So that'll be very exciting to get off the ground. And then also, we of course will be working on the village hall moved, and we'll be moving over there. We've got about $1 million in funds for street improvement projects next year. So we'll keep making improvements to streets. And then on the
which streets are we closing down?
to be determined right now. So we'll talk about that later this year and early next year as we kind of do our evaluation. But yeah, we have a good amount of money set aside to do some projects and make some improvements. And people can look forward to next year. North Main Street is not going to be closed, so that'll be a positive thing. But on the private side of things, we certainly have a lot of actually good multifamily projects going on that are either underway or about to get underway. And a lot of those projects have an affordable component, which I know is a high priority for this village board. So yeah, I mean, there'll be a lot of activity and continued growth, I think, moving into next year.
Excellent. So yeah, we didn't talk about this beforehand, but it's just kind of, who do you think we should be interviewing next on the Oregon Minute? We're queuing up Jennifer, but for the library, but what other big topics are coming?
Yeah, no, I think, your question on which streets, a good person to talk to would be Jeff Rao, Director of Public Works. So he can kind of give an outline of what he kind of has planned for projects next year. And then Elise Cruz would be another good one from the planning and development side of things, because she's really clued into what's happening in that environment. And then I think Chief Pagenkoff is another great one to always talk to. I mean, I think she's doing really great things over there at the police department, and really kind of on the, in my observation, kind of on the cutting edge of some of the more modern policing things that we'd like police departments to do. And I think she's doing great things over there, and she'd be great to talk to about that.
Excellent. Thank you. We've written those names all down. You can warn them that we'll be calling them.
Yeah, those are pretty top names right there to do.
Thanks a lot. That's pretty much the questions I had today, Martin. I want to thank you for your time. We look forward to seeing you in the future as the village moves forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. Tune in next week for another informative Oregon Minute.
You're watching OCA Media, your Oregon Community Access Station.